quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
Can you state
She's
categorically,
asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir. I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today and thank you for networking this information. We are available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Stop on by. Extra content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows. I assure you, every time you visit davejanda.com, you will be educated and empowered. You will not be disappointed. And you will be provided priceless information you can get from no other source. Guaranteed. Today I want to focus on a couple things. The globalist syndicate, the cult, and their little puppets. One of their little puppets just bought the stories roasting in hell right now, Henry Kissinger. And I also want to talk about the winds of change. Change that benefits freedom. You see, the globalist cult has been running a psychological operation on every person in the world for decades. They want you to think that you don't have any power. There's nothing you can do to make a difference. Only they can make a difference. Always a negative difference at that, isn't it? Whether it's the wars they start or the diseases and pestilence that they push on everybody, or their faux operations about climate or whatever it might be. But there has been a huge awakening. And their fait accompli, as they saw, that was going to finish off all the opposition, was what started and was released in 2019 and continued on a second phase with their, right? You know, they started with this, really a bioweapon, and then this. And they thought that was going to finish all of us off. What it did, boomeranged on them. It created a huge awakening. People like myself, for 13 years of me having a radio show, would get all kinds of grief speaking about the globalist syndicate, the globalist cult, the New World Order crowd, the deep state, the shadow government, all the same entity. A small group of people that were led by the banking families, one more time, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Lazards, the Pinkuses, the Warburgs, the Seifs, the Loebs, and the very top of that pyramid, the Payseur, P-A-Y-S-E-U-R family. Yeah, see, they thought they had it all locked up. And that was going to finish off freedom and liberty for good. But it did boomerang. Because people like you stood up. Said, no, not buying it. And started educating and empowering your friends and families and neighbors and coworkers. And at first, many of those people were, oh, come on now, that's a conspiracy theory. And then, as you continue to pass on information through this platform to them, they were like, well, yeah, it's exactly what you said was going to happen. And it's caused a huge awakening. And it's petrifying the cult. Member of the European Parliament, Christine Anderson, who's been a staunch freedom fighter for years, recently said the following. Christine Anderson delivers damning message to the global tyrants. Go to hell. If you do not unequivocally stand with the people, you have no place in any parliament nor in any government. We kind of wipe out 99.9% of people in government by just that alone, right? You belong behind bars. You may even rot in hell for all I care at this point, because that's exactly what you deserve if you sell out the people. Yeah. She called it. Speaking of hell, Henry Kissinger died, and he's burning in hell right now. Henry Kissinger, dead at 100. Oh, he was such a wonderful diplomat. Stop it. He was a globalist whore from the very beginning. He helped give China their technocracy that they've implemented around the world. Freedom stripping operation. Henry Kissinger, right-hand person to the Rockefellers. The political writer and author, commentator Gore Vidal had an interaction with Kissinger in the Sistine Chapel in Rome, no less. When Gore Vidal spotted Kissinger in the Sistine Chapel, gaping at the hell scene in Michelangelo's The Final Judgment, Gore Vidal said to a friend, "Oh, look, Kissinger is apartment hunting." End quote. Kissinger was integral in the formation of the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, that Bond villain, he was a protege of Kissinger's. Let's give you a couple of Kissinger's little famous quotes that solidified him as a globalist piece of trash. Quote, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. And who controls money can control the world," end quote. Henry Kissinger. How about another Kissingerism? Quote, "It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true that counts," end quote. Another Kissingerism quoted in the book The Final Days, quote, "The elderly are useless eaters," end quote. How special. Quote, "Military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy," end quote. Henry Kissinger. Oh, he's such a wonderful diplomat. Yeah, okay. How about this beauty? Quote, "The illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a little longer," end quote. And his grand finale, quote, "The one thing that man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by a world government, a new world order." Hank Kissinger, globalist cult member extraordinaire, who the globalist cult lionize as one of their higher middle-level puppets. But, as I mentioned, the winds of change for freedom have been blowing very strong lately. We got the death of little Hank here. That's positive for freedom. And then around the world, we've been seeing some brush fires turn into freedom infernos. Argentina. Anti-woke central bank nemesis Javier Malay wins Argentina's presidential election. Javier Malay, the outsider libertarian candidate with radical solutions to Argentina's economic crisis, won a recent presidential runoff election. Javier Malay, a far-right economist and former television pundit with no governing experience, claimed nearly 56% of the vote. As I understand it, they actually flipped from using voting machines into using paper ballots for that election. Imagine that. Malay has focused on a drastic reduction of government agencies, personnel, and getting totalitarian freedom-stripping regulations removed. The new president of Argentina, Javier Malay, in his own words, he considers Pope Francis a filthy leftist. I think that's being kind of kind, actually. He says that redistributing wealth is a violent act. He's called climate change a lie of socialism. His governing philosophy is that you can't give leftists an inch. He pledges to end the Central Bank of Argentina. His view on China is that he doesn't cut deals with communists. On other politicians in Argentina, he stated, quote, Mickey Mouse is the aspiration of every Argentine politician because he is a disgusting rodent whom everyone loves. Malay has a couple of warts, if you will. He wants to back the Argentine peso with the dollar. The dollar that's backed by nothing. Vapor. You see, if he was really intent on solidifying and stabilizing his currency, he would back it with hard assets. Gold, silver, gas, natural gas, whatever it might be. Oil. And two, he has been supportive of the World Economic Forum operation in Ukraine. Hopefully he'll seek the light of day on those two. But overall, strong winds for freedom in Argentina. And it goes beyond Argentina. It's official, Geert Wilders and Conservative Freedom Party win the Dutch election. Geert Wilders has won the Dutch elections and says he will lead the country's next government. Quote, the hope of the Dutch people is that they will get their country back, end quote. Again, Wilders, someone who supports limited government, much less government intrusion in people's lives, if any at all, and a destabilizing of the globalist financial empire that they call their central banks. So when we look around the world, Italy, Maloney, maybe not as effective as some of us would have liked at this point, but still better than what was there before. Germany, the AfD win, Spain, the Vox win, Argentina, the Malay win, and Netherlands, the PVV win, along with Geert Wilders. And then, of course, we have Viktor Orban, who is the Prime Minister of Hungary, who has been fighting a lone wolf battle, if you will, against the globalist syndicate in Europe. Orban says and he has pushed for the fact that this Ukraine situation needs to be immediately stopped and peace negotiations instituted. Orban says U.S. sabotaged peace for Ukraine. He's been very outspoken about this, and he's been on target. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban claimed that U.S. lobbying was significant in preventing Ukraine from signing a peace deal with Russia shortly after the conflict between the two countries intensified in February 2022. World Economic Forum, the globalist syndicate, hates him because they wanted that war. They wanted that war to escalate into a nuclear event because that's what they're about. Chaos, conflict. Because out of chaos and conflict, the syndicate gets more power, control, and more financial resources. Just as you see what's happening in the Middle East. It's not from mistake or incompetence, or it's all planned, it's all willful. Yeah. Orban pushed for peace early, pushed throughout the entire Russia-Ukraine goat rodeo of an event. The globalists hate peace because out of peace, they don't usurp more power and more control over people and more financial resources. They're a death and destruction cult. Orban called them up on it. And we're seeing these winds of change for freedom sweeping across the world, whether it's Malay, whether it's Wilders, whether it's Viktor Orban. And we actually see it right here in the United States. They don't want you to hear about this one. But right here in Michigan, the incompetent commandant, the Colonel Klink of governors, Gretchen Whitmer, and her hench people, and her operatives at the local level, brought in a Chinese battery plant for EVs, electric vehicles. Just kind of pushed it through. I bet you didn't hear about this. 6 township officials in Big Rapids, Michigan, that's where this plant was going to be, have been recalled over support for the Chinese Goshen battery plant. From the Detroit News, no less. 5 members of a Big Rapids area township board that voted in favor of tax breaks for a multi-billion-dollar battery plant investment by a Chinese-owned company were in fact recalled in retaliation for their support of the project. The bought-off lamestream fake media tentacle of the deep state don't want you to know about Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. Don't want you to know about Javier Malay in Argentina. Don't want you to know about Viktor Orban in Hungary. Don't want you to know about what happened in Big Rapids, Michigan. They want you on the couch, not talking to anybody, locking yourself down, consuming their propaganda, being in fear, and thinking you don't have any power over any of these globalist hacks. Now you do. And that's the big secret they don't want you to know. You have the power. We all have the power. And what gets us more power is taking information you get on this site and other independent media sites and networking it to your friends and families and coworkers and neighbors and maybe even people you don't know. You know, what I love to do when I'm getting gas, I'll start shooting my mouth off about the prices. I'll go around to the other guy. Man, woman, hey, these prices, why are they so high? What's going on here? You know, back in 2020, we were like $1.60 a gallon. What the heck? You'd be surprised how in touch people are with what's really going on. Just that little conversation will spark people to think, you know, I'm not alone in thinking this is wrong. There's something wrong here, something off. Or if they did think everything was fine, well, that's a good point. Why are prices more than double? Why are my grocery bills so high? Why are... And that is how the winds go from gust level, the winds of change, the winds of freedom, go into hurricane status. Yeah, we have that kind of power. Let's make we got New Year's coming up. New Year's resolution. We are going to fan. We are going to exacerbate those winds of freedom and of change this coming year. And in so doing, it will lead to the restoration of our constitutional republic. I thank you for joining me today. I thank you for networking this information. I hope you'll visit us at davejanda.com. We have a wealth of information there for you. Other videos, the radio show, analysis, guests, that you can't get in any other platform. Take advantage of it. You owe yourself that. And then network it. And hopefully you want to become part of our Freedom family. And subscribe on our in-depth content that I can't go into on the radio or on any social media platform because of the deep state choke points that block that information. That's why DaveJanda.com exists. Try it. You'll like it. It's priceless. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.